All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to jump into a concept that I promise will completely change how you see, well, pretty much everything, from the buildings on your street to the food on your plate. We're talking about culture, but in a way you've probably never thought about before. So let's just start with a kind of weird question. What does your house have in common with whatever you had for lunch today? I mean, think about it. One's for shelter, the other's for energy. They seem totally different, right? Well, maybe not. The truth is, both of them, your house and your lunch, are shaped by these powerful, invisible forces. These are forces that decide how they're designed, what ingredients are used, and why they even exist where you live. And what we're going to do today is make those invisible forces visible.
And how are we going to do that? We're going to use a really powerful metaphor that geographers love, the cultural iceberg. Seriously, this one idea is the key. It helps you see everything that's hiding just beneath the surface of your day-to-day life.
Okay, so before we go any further, let's make sure we're on the same page. What do we even mean by culture? Well, it's pretty much everything a society shares and passes along. Its practices, its technology, its attitudes, its behaviors. The key thing to remember is you're not born with it. It's all learned. So think about a real iceberg. There's the part you can see, right? The tip that's sticking out of the water. Culture is exactly like that. And that's where we're going to start our little exploration, with all the stuff that's easy to spot, the things we can literally see with our own eyes. Geographers have a name for these visible, physical things a culture makes. They call them artifacts. And you can think of them like cultural fingerprints. They're the physical evidence left behind on the landscape, just waiting for us to come along and read them. And to make it easier to read a place, geographers usually group these artifacts into a few big categories. We're talking about stuff like food choices, the style of the buildings, and how people decide to use the land around them. Okay, let's take architecture, for example. You know how in a lot of American suburbs, the houses kind of look the same? That's a standardized landscape, and it tells you something about the culture. But then you go somewhere like the Southwest and see adobe homes made from local clay. That's a whole different story, right? It shows a deep connection to that specific place. How people use land can be a huge artifact, too. You might be driving through parts of the US or Canada and see something really weird. These super long, skinny lots of land, and they all touch a river. That is not an accident. It's a massive, visible clue that points to a very specific moment in history. But here's the thing. Just noticing it is only step one. The real question, the one that gets interesting, is why? Why are the lots that shape? Why are they even there? It's easy to see what is there. But to understand the why, we have to go deeper. We have to go below the surface. And that's where we get to the giant hidden part of our iceberg, the invisible stuff driving everything. To get our answer to why, we've got to dive below the waterline and explore the part of culture that you can't see. So what's the deal with those long lots? It has nothing to do with what makes sense today. The answer is buried in the invisible beliefs and social rules of French colonial settlers. See, for them, having access to the river was everything. For transport, for farming, that history is invisible now, but the market left on the land, that artifact is still there, clear as day. Okay, so this is the crucial part, how it all fits together. You've got the artifacts, the stuff we see, but those are shaped by what we call sociofacts. These are the invisible social structures, things like family, government, and religion. And then, even deeper than that, you have the mentefacts. These are the core beliefs and values of a society. So you see, the invisible stuff is what drives the visible stuff. Here's a great example. Punctuality. Being on time. That's a behavior you can see, right? It's an artifact. But why some cultures are obsessed with it and others are more relaxed? Well, that comes from their deep down beliefs about time itself, the mentefact. Is time something you can save or waste like money? Or is it more flexible, more about the relationships you're building? That deep belief is what controls the behavior. Okay, cool theory, right? But what does this actually mean for us? How does knowing about the iceberg change how we interact with people? Well, this is where it gets super practical, because it's all about how we react when we see cultural differences. Because think about it. Once you know there's this gigantic, invisible part of the iceberg under the water, it changes everything. You can't help it. You stop just reacting to what you see on the surface. Instead, you start getting curious about what's going on underneath. And this really leads to two totally different ways of looking at the world. On one hand, you've got ethnocentrism. That's basically judging another culture by your own rules, assuming your way is the right way. But on the other hand, you have cultural relativism, and that's all about trying to understand a culture on its own terms. Ethnocentrism is pretty much what happens when you're only looking at the tip of someone else's iceberg. You see a custom that's different from yours, and because it doesn't match up, your brain just goes, nope, that's weird, or that's wrong. And that right there is a fast track to bias, misunderstanding, and even conflict.
But cultural relativism, that's the mindset you get when you see the whole iceberg. It's about recognizing that, hey, every culture's practices probably make perfect sense when you understand their own unique history and their own beliefs. And that way of thinking, it leads to respect, appreciation, and just way, way better interactions. So, let's bring this all home. How can you actually use this? The goal here is for you to learn how to read the cultural landscape right where you are, to use this iceberg model to make sense of your own world.
And trust me, understanding this isn't just about not accidentally offending someone when you travel. It's a seriously powerful tool for understanding the world. It helps explain why our cities look the way they do, how we affect the environment, and even the huge complex forces of globalization.
And the cool thing is, you can start doing this like right now. It's really just a simple 3-step process. Step 1, look around and observe the visible artifacts, the buildings, the fashion, the food. Step 2, ask that all-important question, why? Why is it like that? And step 3, try to dig down and uncover the invisible beliefs and social rules that are making it happen. And really, that's the main thing to take away from all this. The cultural iceberg isn't some dusty academic theory. It's a practical tool. It's like getting a new pair of glasses that helps you see your own neighborhood, your job, and your entire world so much more clearly. So I'm going to leave you with a question to chew on. Just look around you, wherever you are right now. What are the visible artifacts you can see? But more importantly, what are the invisible cultural beliefs, those deep mental facts that are shaping the world right in front of your eyes?